All right, all right. Welcome everybody. So this is a weekly live stream that we do with my co-hosts here. You got Brian from Future Ozza, you got Nick from Investing Against the Grain. Today's topic is about Tesla and whether or not we are now at a point where it's changed forever. We're going to go through some of the things that's happened in the last couple of weeks that some of them are reversible, some of them are not reversible, but there's a few things that have happened or about to happen. The narrative has changed, but there's also things that we're going to kind of see. Well, where are we now? Has the story changed, but has Tesla generally being seen differently by investors now? Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Brian and Nick. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm worried about Nick. How are you?
Nick's all right. Let me start off with a disclaimer so nobody starts putting things in the comments to Herbert. I'm homeless right now. We got flood out of our house during the hurricane. I'm using my AirPods. Mike sucks. I'm sorry. Don't blame Herbert. Maybe blame Brian, but can't do anything about it. So please,
I know.
everybody,
Fair.
be patient. But other than that, I'm doing good. We're recovering. Got these two guys. How could I not be good?
Oh, thank you.
I just
very
thought
much,
that's
Nick.
what your voice sounded like.
No, I've seen the dude. The guy's gorgeous voice, gorgeous dude. All right, but no, appreciate you, Nick. Obviously, yeah. Audio is just something, guys. I can't figure this out. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 years, 2 or 3 shows a day, and every kind of month something happens with the audio. Trying to fix it, trying to do something better about it. Okay, let's talk Tesla. I'm going to go through a few things here that has happened in just the last 2 weeks. And again, not sure if this is something that is fundamentally changed Tesla forever or not. You guys can explain to me. But first off, if we just kind of review what's happened with institutional analysts, Morgan Stanley, Adam Jonas thinks that the Trump winning the election will help accelerate Tesla's journey beyond autos. So they've got their beautiful chart here. They're explaining that Tesla's not just an auto company, but that Elon being part of the Trump administration, or at least the administration supporting Elon, it's going to help Tesla's journey beyond autos. You've got them also saying that they're now seeing a $500 bull case in play. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that many institutional investors are saying the same things. Here they point out that losing the $7,500 EV credit, if that is what happens in the US, that might already be priced in the stock. But the leadership in embodied AI and autonomous technology with these potential policy accelerants may not be yet be part of the price into the stock at this point. You've got, of course, the potential that this rumors that the Trump team is saying that they want to ease U.S. rules for self-driving cars. There's that potential there. You've got this new Secretary of Transportation, just been announced yesterday, Sean Duffy. Sean is very much a bull, a Tesla, an autonomous vehicle bull, and this was in 2018. He was interviewed, and even way back then, he was very, very supportive of autonomous vehicles. He's very supportive of Tesla. So those were just a few of the things that happened. There's more. We haven't even talked about it yet. Price changes, structural changes that Tesla is doing. Let's pause there and just explore that. These things that we've heard, they're still about the future, right? I mean, Trump has been elected. That is for sure. He's assigned all of these new assignments, cabinet members. That's true. But then these kind of ideas that they're going to be much more supportive, is that already starting to be built into stock? Is this reversible, or do we think that this really is, straight? We're changing. We're going into a new direction here.
I'll let you go first on this one, Nick, because what I heard was 500 questions and I don't know where to start.
Sorry.
Yeah, same. Let me just tell you what I'm thinking. I think people need to be careful right now with the market, not just Tesla, but Tesla's part of it.
We don't know what to
There's
be
a lot
careful of because he looks like he got frozen. Are you frozen, Brian?
Oh,
I didn't. You look
There you
frozen to me, Herbert.
you look frozen to me. Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Interesting. So mic may not be good, but the video's quality. Yeah, I think everybody needs to be careful with the market right now.
Oh, no.
And I bucket Tesla into this because there's definitely
Frozen
a
again.
big sense of it's not frozen on my end, Herbert, or for
Nope,
Brian.
you're fine.
Just you.
You're fine.
Guys, Herbert doesn't like where I'm going with this, so he keeps silencing my free speech
Is it
here.
me?
I think it is you.
Likewise, I think it's you.
So a bucket of something.
Yes. So I think there's a lot of I don't want to say FOMO, but a lot of euphoria in the market right now. You can see it primarily right now with Bitcoin. You can see it with MicroStrategy. Um, there's a lot of people legging into this market and trying to catch this wave. So whatever happens with Tesla, I would just caution a little bit that could it get to 410, 415 all-time highs? Yes, of course it can. I mean, it was already there once, and things are so much different now, right? Now we have the Cybertruck. Now we have all these factories open. Now we know what states are going to start with FSD, Robotaxi. Now we know what the Cybercab looks like, right? On and on. So obviously we could get back to where we were, but it's just hard not to caveat when you see MicroStrategy up 500% in like a minute, right? And Bitcoin breaking all-time highs left and right, and everything is hockey sticking up. It's hard to not caution that what goes up does tend to come back down at least a little bit. So that's all I would say, because I get it. It's easy to just look in the Tesla window, but you know, this is very reminiscent of what we saw in the past, and it's fun and it's exciting. And while you catch the wave, it's a nice ride, but just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Well, okay, well, Nick, I'm not referring to the stock price this show, right? We're talking about whether or not only the narrative, but Tesla's story change and how they're being viewed by investors for all of these things that have happened over the last couple of weeks.
I just feel like you can't take them apart from each other, because the reason everyone's talking about it now, the reason Adam Jones is what he's saying, is because of this whole narrative change with the new presidency, or the new president-elect coming in, and that is directly affecting the stock. If the stock didn't go above 300, we wouldn't be having this conversation about the institutional investors right now. Like we'd be talking about, when are we going to do this? When's the market going to realize? Right. So it's just a warning flag. That's all. Just throwing it out there.
Okay. So you think that everything that's happened is reversible?
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. What do you think, Brian?
Listen,
Yep.
I don't think prices always regress back to the mean, but volatility always regresses.
Yeah, again,
back
I'm
to
not
the mean.
referring to the prices. I know you have a very good argument, though. Yeah, you're right. That the reason we're having this conversation is because the stock went up. Well, guess what I'm saying? The stock went up because of things that have started to happen that investors in general are starting to see now and recognize now that they didn't before. So the stock didn't just go up by itself, right, without any changes. It was because of Trump administration, Elon being part of that, the view that the regulation is going to change specifically for Robotaxi. And now everybody believes that Robotaxi is going to happen, especially after the 1010 event. Remember, after the 1010 event, at that point, no one thought, not no one, but few people bought into the autonomy story. It was only when, after the 1010 event, then you had this structural change in the administration of the government, then that's what made everything work. And so isn't that a thing that is not reversible in the sense that it's happened, and now the belief that all these things will be coming in favor of Elon and Tesla?
So I'm going to say that, like Nick said, it is all reversible. Mm-hmm. But let's start with the biggest one. Trump could change his mind on how he feels about Elon. Yeah. If that happens, then who knows what happens with all of these potential goodies that are on the table. That happened in 2016. He was the first one, the most visible person added to his Science and Technology Council, which met once, drafted a whole bunch of ideas, handed them over, and as far as he could tell, no one read them. The group never met again. He was the first one to quit, and their relationship soured. Trump said some truly, truly ghoulishly awful things about Elon on social media, and now they're friends again. But if you can lose a friend and gain a friend that quick, you can lose them again. Easy come, easy go. But that's one possible way it could be undone a bit. there's other factors. The biggest factor I see helping right now is, yes, all of this happened over the past couple of weeks, and we've seen the stock run up. But remember how long it's been trading sideways. There's only so much you can load the spring before it pops again. I would say that the price to earnings is higher than a lot of investors are comfortable with, but that doesn't mean it's too high. A lot of people, myself included, are not considering the past 12 months price to earnings, the past month's price. I'm looking at 5 years out, 10 years out, and I'm looking at this and saying, if I was the kind of person who would sell because the price to earnings got too high at these levels, I never would have invested in the first place, because in 2019, the company was not making money. I mean, it was a little scary there for a while, but I am always looking out into the future, and Tesla doesn't have to nail every one of these landings to justify today's prices, let alone tomorrow's prices. They only have to nail one of them to really moon on this one.
I don't think I'm explaining myself well. So I titled
Clearly.
this topic as Tesla has now changed forever. And what I mean by that is that, us retail investors, we all saw Tesla a certain way for the last several years, right? It's going to be the leader in electric vehicles. It's got all these different business units like energy. Wait until energy starts showing up. It's got Robotaxi. We believe strongly that at some point FSD will work, and we're going to be headed in that direction, and that there's no other car company, no other autonomous car company that's going to match that. You got the robot coming. We believe that at some point that will work. All of these things that we examine, right? The Tesla semi business, the autonomy, the benefit, the value propositions of all these manufacturing the factories that we're able to build. We believe that, but the stock was flat and low, and lots of shorts were there. A lot of other people on the other side says, well, no, they're not the only car company. This is an example of, remember we saw this come out? Why is Tesla worth $1 trillion when all these other car companies, and Tesla's a car company, it's overpriced. The stock is overpriced. Remember that? That was happening. What I'm saying is now Tesla has not changed, but everything that we believed for the last year is now something that everyone, or more people, let's put it this way, more people are now starting to see that same story. Something changed there. So today, you're now hearing everybody say, yes, energy is a business. Well, what has changed? Well, energy actually showed up on the earnings. It showed up in the sales. Then now, so that was clear. Now Tesla's not an AI company, and we were saying Tesla's an AI company. Now you're hearing everybody saying it's an AI company. Now, why? How did that, what made them start saying that Tesla's an AI company? Is it because of deregulation or regulations coming for federal framework for autonomous cars? Is all of a sudden they're starting to see this. And I think that's what I mean by Tesla's it's now changed forever, because the story that we've been hammering home is now being seen by a broader group of investors. And as that happens, we're now heading to the next stage. There'll be another thing where they don't get, and they'll take them. Like, for example, the bot. No one's talking about the bot yet today. At some point they will. But where we're at today, we finally have a good sized group of investors realizing that Tesla is an actual, Robotaxi is real, energy is real, and all these other businesses are real. So it's less that Tesla's fundamentals have changed. It's more that finally we've got a good sized group of investors who realize what they're seeing now.
I thought that was the question we were answering as far as I heard, but I'll play your game, Herbert. Yeah, those are all real things. And like you were saying with Megapack, when I interviewed Matt Smith 2 years ago, I said, when is Wall Street going to start pricing it in? And his answer was, when it shows up on the quarterlies. And then it did, and then they did. I still think they're undervaluing it. They're trying to drive into the future by staring into the rearview mirror. And if you do that, it'll work great as long as there are no bends in the road. And this road is bending upward. So I don't think they're pricing in Megafactory Shanghai, which is going to have tremendous margins, and we suspect 2 to 3 times the volume that we see out of Lathrop. So it is that alone. I mean, just not counting that is a little crazy. And the reason we're seeing people start to recognize the AI story is because Tesla not only has AI, not only has it out in the world, but is monetizing it with monthly subscriptions to FSD and with the sale of FSD. And it is there. It is on the balance sheet, whether people admit that it's real or not, and that will expand. Of course, it'll expand into how the bot is driven. If the bot was a piece of hardware, they could market it today. They could sell it today. There are bots, as you know, that are already on the market that have everything they need except the brain. And the brain is the hardest part. High schoolers can build humanoid robots. What they can't do is make it do anything truly valuable. So as soon as people understand that Cortex will be able to make Optimus do just about anything, is the day that I think Wall Street will start to recognize it. But I would agree with your premise that we are in a new place. We are no longer guessing and hoping for the future. We are seeing the fruits of these developments in the real world.
So, Herbert, I get the premise of your question. I just don't really agree with it.
Okay.
I don't think that all of a sudden people are recognizing Tesla truly as an AI company and they get the
No,
Robotaxi finally and they
no,
understand it's also an
agreed.
energy company. I think that's look, what happened was Trump won, Elon's tied to Trump, Biden didn't really like Trump. Investors are readjusting where they have their bets. And I think that's what we see here. So in my opinion, everything we've seen so far has zero to do with people saying, "Oh, damn, Tesla's an AI company," or "Oh, damn, Tesla's gonna be the one to solve robotaxis." In my opinion, none of this has to do with that. That's how I see it. It's just people readjusting and then some money coming from the sidelines getting put to work. That's what I see.
I love it. Yeah, that's why I was asking the question, because I actually agree with what you're saying. They're following the stock, right? You see the stock rise, and they come up with their reasons why it went up, and it's not necessarily because they actually believe
And,
in
and,
the story per se.
and that's why I'm so adamant about trying to at least put the disclaimer to be careful. Because if it was for the latter, oh, they are an AI company. Oh, they are going to be the first to truly solve autonomy. Then I would say these levels are real. Or when we get to 400, it's real, meaning it's got a nice solid foundation under that stock price. But right now, it feels more like we got a bunch of pillows under that stock price, and it can keep us up. We can even go higher, and it may not go down, but it's not like having, you know, block construction under that. And that's my
Okay,
fear, right? Like
let me ask the question in a
something can
separate way.
pull the rug out.
So that when I first asked the question, I was referring to the broader group of investors, whether they see a different view of what Tesla is. You're right. Everything you said, I love it. How about just us? How about us as retail investors? Are we more confident in our kind of a view of the bullish future for Tesla, right? So, number one, in the last earnings call, we all heard Elon and Ashok himself say that we think we're going to get to as safe as a human by mid-quarter next year. We're going to launch Robotaxi, paid Robotaxi in 2 states next year. Now, of course, this is just a company making these projections in the future, but there's an extra confidence now that it looks like that even these Ashok Swami, who's somebody we kind of feel like wouldn't necessarily just be boasting about something that may not happen. He's trying to give you a much more real kind of estimate of what it is. He himself are saying that this is the case, right? So that's one that we feel like, hey, that's actually more confidence on our side. Then this other side, which is, okay, you've got these administrators coming in that are pro autonomy, that are they're talking about a federal framework for some sort of autonomous cars. So that's another, but I always said that actually is a small thing. I don't think that's a big thing, but it seems like the public feels like that's a really big deal. But it's just another thing, another potential obstacle that's being removed. So, is your own confidence for the success of Robotaxi and the time frame for Robotaxi, not whether it's going to happen or not, it will. It's a matter of when. Does that give you the confidence as well? And then, of course, anytime they make the announcement that there's going to increase the compute power of Giga Texas, and then I don't know if you guys saw this, but XAI is going to buy another 100,000 NVIDIA, and in that article, it talked about that they might use XAI's Colossus for FSD. It's like, what? Anyway, so that part we don't know if that's real or not, but these things are happening.
100,000 more. That's eye-watering. That's a whole lot of compute. That is going to create a power demand that is the size of a small city, for sure. Interesting. And where's that located again? Georgia? Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah, that's a lot of juice. Do we know what XAI is hoping to tackle with that?
That's what I just said. I mean, obviously they're going to do the solving the universe's questions, but they also apparently going to use it for FSD. Again, I don't know if that's true, but that was part of the comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to use it.
I don't think so either. I think they're going to be pursuing their own separate thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. What about Dojo chip design? What are we thinking on that? Because from what I understand, I had asked a IBM chip designer, senior chip designer I met at CES. I said, can you share any secrets? And he said, of course not. And I said, what about Dojo? That's not an IBM secret. Can you share that? And he said, yes, because that's not my company. And I can tell you because I've studied it, because it was my job to look at it and analyze it for the company. And also because I find it fascinating. I said, my question is, why is it taking so long to get out into the world? Because at the time it hadn't been deployed yet. And he said, it's not that long. This is a normal development cycle. They just announced it earlier than others would have. And he said, the fact that they've gotten as far as they have means that they've probably got a second version of it already well into development, because that's how it works. They're always designing 2-3 chips ahead. So I think what they've done is put together a team that is irreplaceable. The number of people who design chips at that level is small enough that they all know each other. And I'm curious what you guys think of the future of the chip development, and if the market will ever recognize the value of it.
So pretty much everybody makes their own chips these days.
Yeah.
Apple does, Amazon does, Google does, Tesla does,
Microsoft does.
Microsoft. I don't think that what matters is the design of the chips. I mean, truly, all that does is help you get more vertically integrated more than anything, and maybe at least from a hyperscaler perspective. From a Tesla perspective, I think it's a lot more nuanced because they're designing the chips to be extremely myopically focused rather than able to do all sorts of tasks. All they care about is video training, at least with the V1 of Dojo. I don't have a lot of thoughts on it, to be honest. It'll be interesting to see what the development is of it. I do think that they've been sandbagging their ambitions with it, just to just like they were saying. I think they're sandbagging what they want to do with the 4680 and what it means, and they're always talking about how they're still going to buy all the chips or all the batteries they can from any suppliers. I think they're still going to say the same thing about Nvidia. So I don't know. I don't. It's interesting, but I don't think. I think sometimes we get so focused on these little topics, and they're interesting, right, for the nerds out there like us. But I think it's more so, what do they mean? What's the bigger picture? What does this unlock that we're not seeing, right? I think that's the beauty of what Elon does is he creates these products, and the next thing you know, somehow here we have a new revenue source from this, right? Like SpaceX, they didn't start off with ambition for Starlink. And then next thing you know, here's Starlink, and that's like even the bigger part of it. They didn't start off with ambitions of having the rockets land. They were just trying to get rocket up into the air, and that was it. So I think Dojo is going to be one of those, and I don't think we know what's going to come from it yet. I think it'll be something that we're not even thinking about.
So I will pivot to Starlink because that's a great story right there. Gwen Shotwell said she expects that by the end of this year, so like next month, Starlink will be profitable. And my thought on that is, my goodness, have you spent a fortune? There are 6,000 satellites in orbit to get us to this level. And of course, Starlink deployment is growing rapidly. I think it was just a couple days ago, Herbert, you posted in our Northwest group that Western Washington is sold out. It is no longer available. All of the cells are sufficiently saturated that they can deploy no more until, the next round of a whole lot more satellites get up there. And what I'm seeing with that is everybody wants to have a constellation like this, but if you need to launch 6,000 satellites, how are you going to do that? Are you going to hire SpaceX to do it? Because you'll have to pay a markup. You're not going to get profitable as quickly unless you're charging substantially more. And I know we're talking about Tesla and not SpaceX, but the ecosystem is all intertwined. When the astronauts rolled out on the launch pad for the first crewed mission back to the International Space Station, they did it in Model X's. It was all over the news. It was on every channel, and everyone was excited. And searches for how to invest in SpaceX went through the roof. And the answer is you can't. But the next day, Tesla stock popped because it is an ecosystem. Had today's launch been a disaster, had it blown up the launch pad or crashed into the ground or anyone hurt at all, I believe Tesla stock would have taken a dip on that because investor sentiment, it's all one and the same for a lot of people. Thoughts?
I'll just add a comment, let Herbert give his thoughts. Just for awareness, Amazon is using SpaceX to launch their Kuiper satellites.
But they were gonna use Blue Origin until the lawsuit went. I don't know if you saw the lawsuit, but they went out to bid from all the major launch providers except for SpaceX. And I think the investors sued because what are you doing? Just get the satellites up there and use the cheapest provider.
Yeah. So this is an example, right? I know why you brought it up, which is things that Elon companies are doing. They're these grand ideas, and then somehow some of them, many of them, they come to fruition with an incredible business plan, business unit that then succeeds, right? Here's one example. So the beautiful thing about Tesla is that they're not just one idea. They have 20 business units. I think I did an interview with Søren Basher, and he identified 14 revenue streams, and so the idea that all these ideas, we talked about Dojo as one potential thing that could come to fruition, and it's looking like at this point that it's actually now headed in the right direction, and it is something we're still saying way up in the future, but it could turn out to be a positive, and it turn out to be that it's actually going to be a game changer. So these things are happening. And, so that's why I'm saying what has changed in Tesla. Put it this way. Are we still really the same story today, which is Tesla is a car company, Tesla is an energy company, and someday it will have autonomy, and that's what matters. Whether or not autonomy happens or doesn't, that's what will change Tesla forever. Otherwise, we're still the same company as we have been for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're a different company other than we are further down the timeline. Uh-oh.
Hey.
Oh no.
Oh no, I
dear.
hacked the stream again. What's happening?
The Tesla gods heard us
Ladies and
speaking
gentlemen,
blasphemy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jan from Tesla Fix is joining us all the way from Germany. So good to have you. We are discussing SpaceX. We are discussing Tesla. We are discussing Dojo, FSD, autonomy, robotics, all of it. What should we ask him, gents?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess
have
where I'm
one
headed
question.
here. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Okay.
Please. Just go on.
So
Yeah.
I'll ask you this question, which is we're talking about what has changed in Tesla that is now changed it so that it's headed in this new direction, right? And I think maybe it's not one thing. Maybe it's like a lot of things that are coming together. And I wanted to point this out, which is quite interesting. You guys might have seen this, which is just a recent thing. Tesla's lowered their Model Y starting lease price in the US to $299 per month. And it's the same lease price as Model 3. So yeah, it could just be a promotion. It is just a promotion. Maybe it's just taking the $7,500 EV tax credit and loading it in. Maybe it's just them trying to boost up their sales, right? Just to boost up sales to get to the end quarter and so forth. And that's what this is. But I like what Farzad was saying here. If you look at some of this, this was in response to a new promotion, a new thing that Tesla's doing in Texas, where they're now offering unlimited charging for $5 per month. Okay, and if you do it at nighttime, pay $5 a month, you can do unlimited charging. If you buy a new Tesla this week and you sign up in Texas for their energy program, now you can lease a car for $200 a month. Of course, this is a lower version of a car. You can pay a monthly fee, $5 for charging. You can have your insurance for $100 a month. And then he's throwing in, at some point, they might offer you unsupervised self-driving for $300 a month. So now you got $600 a month for completely worry-free, unsupervised self-driving ownership experience. This is something that might come in the future, which is now they're switching to a subscription model. So just wanted to bring that up, which is, this idea that as you see these things forming, is it a stretch for us to think that this is the future, a subscription pricing that's just going to revolutionize kind of a car ownership? And in fact, not only will it be a lower amount, at some point, it could actually be a revenue stream for you.
Yeah, I think that's highly interesting. I wanted to touch on 2 points here. You've mentioned before that what has changed with Tesla, or is it multiple things that changed with Tesla? For me, funny enough, because I've also observed Tesla for a long time now, is actually the plan that was laid out long time ago comes into fruition more and more. Obviously, the timelines were off, like with FSD. Like Elon Musk said, FSD robotaxis will be available. So yeah, I think for 5 years already now, I think. So that didn't come to fruition so fast, but still it's just the plan that aligns now. And the levers that Tesla now has also to promote the vehicle as well is insanely competitive in comparison to the rest of the industry, because they don't have these levers. And now what you've mentioned here is actually even a glimpse into way more into the future, is the subscription model, because that's right. They can do the pricing model can be very creative in that sense. And it makes sense because people most of the time spend around $600 for their cars per month. Also in Germany, around 700 or 500, it depends. So this is also an area where people are comfortable of spending for their car or for their transportation per month. And this means a lot more revenue, or being more competitive for Tesla as well, even when people like other companies catch up. So it's a tough game, I think, for legacy car manufacturers right now, even more than before. But yeah, that's my opinion on that. Yeah.
There was a program we saw about a year ago, and I assume it's still around, where you could charge your EV overnight in Texas for, I think, $10 a month or $20 a month.
It's now $5.
Right. Well, right. But what I mean is there were things on that list that were not real. I was just pointing out that this one is real. Though the other things could absolutely come. I think when FSD is solved, I think what I'd love to see is, forget safety scores. I want a different price differential for when I'm driving versus when it's driving.
It's already happening. So,
well,
Jeff
not where
Lutz,
we live.
Yeah, Jeff Lutz in Chicago has Tesla insurance, and his price was at one point $300 a month for the insurance. But as he started using FSD, like 99% of the time, his Tesla insurance fell to $100 a month. And he was just pointing out that insurance reduction is equivalent to the cost of FSD. And so they recognize that if you use FSD more, they're going to lower your insurance. So
Ironically,
what we're talking,
USA, my insurance has gone up.
right? Well,
I've heard Florida rates are pretty unreasonable.
Well, USA, well, yes, but USA has like this, just like a lot of these car companies have or insurance companies have, where they track on your phone. My score has gotten worse with FSD.
so okay, well, I want to bring it right back to the beginning of the conversation, because you guys pushed back when I said, has Tesla changed forever? Well, one of the things that has changed since the last earnings call was margin positive, right? Margin, the cost of goods fell. Margins is starting to be stabilized and grow. When Tesla is able to stabilize that margin, they're able to offer all of these promotions. They have all sorts of levers that they can pull. And these things are finally here that they can then truly disrupt a lot of industries, not just the auto industry, but as one example.
One thing I
Be
would
the
point
bad guy
out,
on here.
you
Sorry, Phil.
demon. You demon. One thing I would point out is in the past few years, we've seen substantial inflation. But what we've seen from Tesla is lower cost of goods sold and a reduction in retail price to match, which is pretty exciting. And actually, considering the volume, could be one of the reasons the inflation index is coming down.
What I was going to say, though, is yes, we had a good quarter when it comes to margins. It will be interesting to see how this next quarter looks when we don't only have the cyber beast and we are, baking in FSD and all that completely into it, because every cyber beast had it. So, yes, you're right, Herbert, but let's just see this smoothed out over time and not just a one blip in the radar.
Okay. Good point.
So just being cautiously optimistic. I hate to be the person who has to do this, but
No,
I
I
just
know.
want to.
Yeah. But here's an
things.
example. Let me. Let me pull that off. So hide that comment. And so take a look at this example here. Elon replied to somebody who said, right, hey, it'd be nice if we had larger vehicles. And he said, because we have, in this case, I think it was he was a rabbi that had 7 children. And then Elon goes, that's great to see. Tesla Robo van is in development, some other things too. So it's looking like that Tesla is now in an offensive. They're able to build more vehicles. They've got 2 new vehicles coming up next year, and they're going to have more different kinds of vehicle formats. So again, it just feels like because we are now at a stage where a lot of things have formed, the economy specifically is also, it's another big thing that has changed. That lets Tesla to be even much more in the offensive now in building things, launching things, reducing prices everywhere.
Let's say for a second that Tesla is a car company. The Juniper refresh is coming out. Jan, what do you think that's going to do to the sagging sales in Germany and Europe?
So I would say that they probably will go up, but I'm not 100% sure. It's a difficult call. I think a new model always ramps up sales, and I think the Model 3 performance was perceived very well by the media here. So because if you go heads to heads with BMW and the other competitors that are more in the sporty category, then people will notice that, because on racetracks, like, Germans are crazy for that as well. So I think this one was a good move. Also, the refresh Model 3 was actually pretty nice. It was so nice that even I bought one, so I had to do it then. I think it was perceived pretty well. And with the Model Y refresh, I think also that it just makes sense to because Germany is also the hub of producing those. And I think that would be very interesting to see how they will implement it, if they will produce it here. Of course, they have to. They wouldn't just produce 2 models from Germany and from Shanghai. So there might be a Model Y Juniper built in Germany. It has to. So I'm very interested how this will be perceived. And I think it just makes sense because also in Germany the pricing is going up and up, and you notice that people's spending here is not as good as before, the year before generally. That's a perception I have all around me as well. So people are more hesitant also because of the conflicts that are right next to us. So I think people are more cautious with spending. And in the end, the competitors don't have a good match. So in the end, what choice do you have but to buy a Model Y? Then I think the sales will go up then when Juniper is released. Yeah, absolutely.
What's you guys' expectation? What will happen when Tesla releases these new vehicles? I think most of us agree that Juniper won't necessarily do anything. But what about the next vehicle? Like this, say they reveal a new vehicle. Now, it could just be a kind of like a revision, a change to an existing Model Y because it's on the same production line, or it could be a brand new vehicle. But once they release that and say, hey, that's available for sale, what's going to happen?
If it comes out soon, it'll fill some gap in the market. Whether if it's a new vehicle entirely, it could be based on the 3 or Y, but larger or smaller. If it's a completely different form factor like that, it will increase sales. I believe it would cut into the segments of somebody else who's making cars that shape. I think that would absolutely juice the sales substantially and as quickly as they could ramp it. And there are people who just always want the newest Tesla, or people who want one of each in their collection. I've met a number of those at events around the country, around the world, and I think those people would buy one just for the sake of having one. Nobody else?
Yeah, I I just wanted to wait if Nico wants to say something. So, because my speaking time is always a little bit over the charts. But I think it depends on the form factor, obviously. If the form factor is a small car, I'm still rooting for that for Germany because we will, or for Europe, because we still have this in-between step because the US has the beta test of FSD already rolled out with supervised still, but without touching the steering wheel. And China is next. So Europe, with their regulations, will take ages until they get to the point to finally allow something like this. So I estimate that it will take at least 4 years until we are close to something that resembles an FSD legislation, more or less. So because every state or every country in Europe has to vote on this, and the process is just way longer than in the US, I think, and that's why I think the in-between step would be very, very necessary, or they lower the price of the Model 3 in the end, or they get into a territory where they say, okay, good, that's our smaller car, kind of the Model 3. We focus on that to just cut the costs even more. That could make sense, but I think even the form factor is it. Like in Europe, we still need smaller cars, and I think an in-between step would be nice. But I don't know if they will do it. I'm a little confused since the Robotaxi was pushed for earlier.
Well, I mean, Elon did say that they're shooting for $30,000 after incentives. Didn't he say that?
For the Model 3 or the
new models.
Yeah, okay. No, I didn't catch that. Yeah, but
which means that it's going to be a compact car, right? It's not unlikely it's going to be a bigger car.
It has to. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I missed that. I thought he said that on the Robotaxi, like 25,000, I think. So I was a little confused there, but I think it's maybe loosely based on that. If there's something in the works, this should make sense. Yeah, even a 2-seater, it just makes sense. Just put a steering wheel into the Robotaxi. That wouldn't make sense for Germany, I think.
Well, people are asking that question. What do you guys think about that? Is that a potential? I don't think so.
Asking about what?
Would they create a cybercab with the pedals and steering wheel? I know you've answered that question before, Brian.
I've answered that. My statement is that NV91 was canceled. That was the cybercab with wheels and pedals, a wheel and pedals. And it is a substantially different vehicle. They could make it. They would just have to reopen the NV91 project and spend a year or so on the engineering for it to get it up to validation spec. And they didn't. They canceled that. Anybody else wish to agree or disagree?
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say I kind of think that there's a chance that we will see a new version of the Tesla, like we've been talking about, this mid-range version. But I could see a world where that's not targeted for Europe or the States, where it's targeted for India, for China, for South America, for areas where maybe FSD won't be the primary place, or where you have just lower wages in general, so affordability is a lot more difficult. And in places like North America and Europe and populated areas of China, that's where they will just do a just oversaturation of Tesla cabs. But I do think that there will be another version. I don't think it'll be the cyber cab at all
Yeah.
with pedals or steering wheel. It's going to be a iteration of a 3 and Y. I mean, we know this. Like
Yeah.
they've told us
Exactly.
this. It's on the same lines. It's going to be very reminiscent of that, and they probably will still sell in Europe and in North America. But in my mind, what would be a clever idea would be force the regions to adopt cyber cabs by not selling those vehicles there, and use those more affordable vehicles to go into areas like India, South America, less populated areas of China to data collect. And so that's kind of how I would be thinking about it.
So
Yeah.
to that, I want to add something because on average in Germany, people earn, for example, 55K a year. That's on average. So their spending for a car is mostly, or how they acquire cars is mostly company cars. That's a main thing that they do. I think 60% of car sales are company cars in Germany, which is huge. And also people tend to spend more like lower prices on used cars. Obviously, new cars, the new car segment is, it's there, but I think still people tend to buy a lower entry point in car sales there. So I think it wouldn't make sense to just sell a cheaper car just in India or in or on the other. So I disagree there. But what I could see, because you say it will be probably based on the Model 3 or the Model Y on the same line and everything, I think it makes sense if they have a Tesla with a different wheelbase that is just smaller, because that's a very popular form factor in Europe anyway. So also for China, there are some parts that, they also use tinier cars. In Japan, think about Japan too, they love smaller cars. So the form factor is very popular in not just only Europe or China, also in Japan. And there are different countries that where this could make sense also from the pricing point as well. So if Tesla could just tackle that segment, I mean, this would be very huge for Fiat, for like a huge problem for Fiat, for Ford, for VW.
And for that matter, they could make it a few inches narrower, because other countries don't have the same abundance of obesity that we have. We are a nation where the diabetes is load bearing, it's structural, and we need to foster that. But in other markets, why couldn't you make it a couple inches narrower? If you look at something like the Mitsubishi iMEV, when they imported that to the U.S., they literally had to make it 4 inches wider because U.S. occupants are a little bulkier than their Japanese counterparts. I could see boy, if you just took a couple, like just take the whole thing down by a couple percent, make it just a few inches narrower, a few inches shorter, that would end up being a whole lot of atoms. That would reduce the weight significantly. You could drop the battery pack from 75 to maybe 65 kilowatt hours. And then you get this cascade where you've got cheaper brakes, cheaper tires, cheaper wheels, cheaper suspension, and that could introduce quite a bit of savings.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying about the need for it and all that. My point is to force those regions to adopt cyber cabs, to press them to lean into FSD would be that forcing mechanism of no, we're not going to sell these vehicles to those regions because it's a data technology for those regions, right? Europe has really great streets, great road signs, great. I mean, the infrastructure there is really good. It's same with in North America. It's not the same in South America. It's not the same in parts of China. It's not the same in India. So in those regions, it makes sense that the cities, that the environments, those countries haven't really caught up in general. I mean, like in South America, when you're driving, the lanes are suggestions, lights are suggestions. People aren't actually abiding by it. Like it's
What
not like that in
lanes?
Europe. Exactly. It's but so I think those are great areas where you could force the narrative to go into robotaxis. And I think that would
I
be
don't
a way to do it.
I don't think you would need to force them. I think in markets where they can't afford even a $20,000 car, that the motivation would already be there to use something that costs, $5 a ride, $10 a ride.
So I don't think they're going to do this. I think what they want, they don't need to make smaller cars at this point. What they'll want to make is a car that's roomy inside, even if you're a small individual, because it's going to become robotaxi. You want to have a lot of room to be, the experience and relaxation inside. So just like what Nick was saying, it's pretty clear at this point, right? They're creating the the cybercab that is designed for robotaxi. They're not going to put a steering wheel and pedal on that, as some people have said. They're creating these new vehicles that's based on a Model 3, Model Y. That's what's going to bring down the price to sub $30,000. I don't think they're going to make them smaller. I think they're just going to, because they're going to all be eventually robotaxis. And eventually you will sell the cybercab in Europe, in India, and China as a robotaxi. And so that's your two-seater form factors. That's going to solve that solution.
Yeah, but my question there is, if there is a market for smaller cars, what do you do with the 5 years that you could have sold a different model until FSC is ready in Europe?
Are you saying that the smaller car, it has to be a smaller car, not just that the price is the same as a smaller car?
It depends. South Europe, yeah, you need smaller cars. In Germany, it's a little different. People are used to little, like sedans or middle class cars from the size perspective.
But if you had a Model 3,
I'm a little
that was priced at 25 grand.
Yeah, the pricing is a lot, does a lot with that, sure. But in the south of Europe, I think South Europe, like Italy, for example, or Spain, or yeah, I have to think about that more. It's an interesting topic to think about that. If they need,
well, we'll just sit here and wait.
Okay.
We're not actually waiting.
If this year is not the year where Tesla's changed forever, is it next year? And what is it that we're talking about? Is it only just robotaxi? That robotaxi is real, it's proven, that's it? Or is there anything else that could happen? Like I've been trying to say here, multiple vehicles, but more importantly, the pricing of the vehicles. It's not just that the Tesla is a car company, but if they can change the subscription model, they can change the kind of how much money you'd have to pay is so small, and they combine all these features, that could be a complete disruption of the industry, just that alone.
I would say that, yeah, you go first, Nick. Okay. Well, I would say that forget cars entirely. Yes, if Robotaxi is deployed, if Optimus is deployed, forget Tesla changing the world changes?
I think I agree with that, Brian. But I think will Tesla will always be Tesla. But what will change once robotaxis arrive? How many people have you met that say, "Yeah, it's all right. Teslas, yeah, they look cool, they're interesting." But once they buy it or once they experience it, it's like, whoa. With robotaxis, that will be the first time the barrier to entry to experience or use a Tesla product is available to everybody, no matter of what your tax bracket is. That will be game changing. And at that point, the narrative will, I think, have really changed for Tesla.
Agree entirely. Butts in seats is the biggest motivator. I was hanging out with a friend who's a big EV fan. He loves Tesla, but he doesn't have one. He's never driven one. And I asked him if he'd like to drive mine. And no, I know what would happen if I did. And I was like, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I also talked to somebody who never had an electric vehicle before, and we just talked about the Tesla, and I said, yeah, the Model 3 is so nice. When I just walk up to it, it opens up, and I told the usability of the car, of the Model 3 Highland refresh there. And yeah, a couple of, I think 4 months later, he arrived with a Model 3 and with a performance version in the kindergarten where I drop off my kid. And it was funny to see. Then he said, like, I never used an electric car before. He never even test drove mine. So he just went there and kind of bought it blind the same way I did it because he watched some videos and he was so astonished by it. And yeah, that's it. It has an effect. Like everybody I talk to, especially those who went from dinosaurs or dinosaur juice technology to the Teslas are stunned, and also everybody that tested an ID3 wanted to go back to hybrids or internal combustion engine cars, which is pretty funny. Yeah, now you see kind of the gap where both products or visions kind of separate, because when you think of EVs, the best ones are actually the Teslas, in my opinion. I'm highly biased in that sense, but yeah, my opinion here.
I don't think that's an opinion. I think that's been actually proven by all sorts of people, all sorts of agencies, all sorts of testers.
The fact that the Model 3 Highland, in all its variations, in all its variants, get such universal acclaim from critics who in the past have even been quite skeptical, tells you kind of everything you need to know. There are of course outlets who will say nice things no matter what, or who never say anything bad about any car. But most of the bigger publications have no problem telling you your car is not good enough. And the Model 3 Highland is amazing. And I expect the Juniper to be a carbon copy, but a little bit larger, just like the Y was to the original 3.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add here, because I think it's important here. I think the perception of electric cars in general in Germany, I know it's sad that I always talk about this, but and that I use this as a surrogate for whole of Europe, but it's interesting to see that the perception of electric cars went down because Germans are very loyal to VW, for example. Now they have the ID3 and now they want to go back to hybrids. But then they have now this experience with the Model 3 Highland was there, and then they have the performance version of the Model 3 Highland. And that was very important because that wanted people to test drive also the Model 3 again, kind of. But with the sportier version, I think for Germany, it's the best strategy to go with the performance versions to get butts in the seats in that sense, because generally electric cars are perceived a little, disappointing, but they need to test drive the performance version, and that's how you get pressed in Germany, is when you have the performance versions around and beat the German car companies there. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So stay on. You can be automatically transferred to Future Aza. He's going to answer all the questions that showed up on the chat there. Thanks, everybody. Show up again next week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.